Welcome everybody to Forza Horizon 5, and today we're taking a look at the 2020 Lamborghini SC20. So this is a one-off and follows the SC18 as only the second vehicle that Lamborghini's racing division Squadra Corsa has built, with this being a mostly custom built job for a singular customer. So apparently the kind of value that has been put on this car is around $5 million, so yeah, not just only a one-off but also extremely expensive. And that is because the bodywork is virtually all brand new. It's all made out of carbon fibre, and yeah, it's all been made to not only be as sporty as possible but also redirect the airflow around the car rather than into the passenger and the driver, because obviously there is no windscreen. Apparently it's been tested up to 168 miles an hour to the point where the buffeting and the air noise and the comfort of the passenger and driver has been pretty much negligible in terms of the impact from wind. So yeah, that is a really cool aspect, because obviously without a windscreen, wind noise and all of that lot can be very harsh. So yeah, to design the car to not only look great but also minimise that wind, the effects of wind, is really rather effective and really rather admirable, quite frankly. And yeah, some of the interior is also custom made as well, like these air vents are 3D printed apparently, and you've got this custom paint job as well. But the rear end is where the things get even more spectacular, with this giant rear wing. The different kind of lights at the rear end as well. The rear wing has 3 different settings as well. I'm pretty sure it's on the highest setting though for this game to maximise the handling, but still looks fantastic. And yeah, it's also based on the Aventador SVJ, so that means it's got the same engine, the same all-wheel drive system and the same gearbox underneath, which means we've got a 6.5 litre V12 engine producing 759 horsepower and 531 pounds-feet of torque, which is pretty formidable, although unfortunately this weighs slightly more than the SVJ upon which it is based, due to the having to strengthen the car due to the fact that it's got no roof. So yeah, it does weigh 31 pounds more than the Aventador SVJ at 3,638 pounds, which does slightly impact the acceleration in terms of 0 to 60 and 0 to 100 time, but it's quite negligible as it's by less than 0.1 of a second. So yeah, overall a fantastic looking car. Not something that we're going to obviously see all that much, although apparently the customer does want to drive this as a more of a daily or at least a weekend kind of car. So it's not going to be some car that's just going to be wrapped up in a like a cloth thing or whatever, and only brought out on occasion, like once a year or something. It is something that is apparently going to be driven quite a lot, so that is certainly a good thing. But yeah, it's at least at the end of the day more of a car to just look at, and certainly something that evokes the kind of older cars from Lamborghini in terms of being better poster cars than actual vehicles to drive, or at least ones that you can drive. So yeah, but nonetheless, let's get out onto the open road and see what this car can do. Right, so here we are at the drag strip, so let's see how quick this car can go before we hit the speed camera, and then we'll get it around the track. So yeah, pretty formidable in terms of straight line speed, just like the Aventador SVJ is. Did not see the Cyan Roadster there trying to get in our way, making a nuisance of itself. So yeah, since the SVJ is hardly a slouch, this is also pretty much as quick as that car. So yeah, nearly 159 miles an hour, so not quite as quick as the 296 GTB that we've reviewed already, that this is part of the same car pack as, but yeah, still pretty formidable, especially when you consider the aerodynamics on this car. Despite being engineered to reduce wind noise and wind intrusion, it's still not going to be the most aerodynamic of cars, which is certainly going to limit the acceleration that this car has, but still it is far from slow, as you can see. So yeah, let's take a look at the stats quickly. So in Rivals mode, we're in top end of S1 class, and yeah, they're the stats, which as you can see in terms of acceleration, launch and braking are all excellent. Top speed is really rather good, and the handling, although it's not as good as the SVJ due to the extra weight, it is still fairly solid. So yeah, is at the end of the day though, this kind of car is just something to admire in just in terms of how it looks. The general performance and, you know, drivability and all that lot is only secondary to the looks at the end of the day. But nonetheless, let's see what this car sounds like, and then we'll talk about it some more. So yeah, like other Lamborghinis with this engine, this sounds absolutely glorious. Yeah, it's not an engine that's ever going to be superseded, quite frankly, because engines are only getting smaller nowadays, and this is the biggest V12 a Lamborghini has ever made. In fact, it's the biggest engine Lamborghini has ever made, so yeah, it's not something that we're going to see much more of, but regardless, it still sounds great, and yeah, it powers the car pretty nicely to 60 and to 100. In 0 to 60 is dealt with in 2.839 seconds, 0 to 100 is dealt with in 5.818 seconds, and we're going to a top speed of 210 miles an hour. So like I said earlier, the 0 to 60 and 0 to 100 time is only negligibly slower than the, in comparison to the Aventador SVJ. Top speed though is a lot lower down by 13 miles an hour, but at the end of the day, would you really want to go 223 miles an hour in this car? I think not. So yeah, 210 is plenty. Handling wise, it's a little bit more cumbersome than the SVJ. It's nowhere near as agile or as quite as competent, but not just due to the extra weight, but the way that the aerodynamics are now working with the car in terms of downforce and the like. But still, it's a really good car, and definitely benefits from being based on the SVJ, as it still has the rear wheel steering, the all-wheel drive and the gearbox going for it. So yeah, it's still a really good car. But yeah, if you want a Aventador, you know, that is great to handle and great in a straight line, then the SVJ is the ultimate version of the Aventador. It's quite frankly my favourite of the modern Lamborghinis, to be honest. It's absolutely spectacular to drive, while it still sounds good, and to be honest, it still looks pretty great as well. Although I will say this looks a lot better than the Aventador J, which was also a window screenless, roofless car of the Aventador. So yeah, it does at least look a lot better than that car, while being more powerful and lighter. So it does have that going for it. But yeah, at the end of the day, this is more about the looks than anything else that it excels in. But yeah, at the end of the day, I would choose to drive the SVJ over this. But still, this is part of the Italian Exotics car pack. I'm not going to review the 7th and final car in the car pack, because it is just a Huracan racer. There's no real difference at all in any other regard outside of the handling and braking. So yeah, not going to bother reviewing that, because I just don't have enough to say about it. But still, 6 out of 7 of the cars I really do enjoy driving for various reasons. And I'm sure that Huracan Racer will come in handy at some point as well. But still, overall, a great car pack, and one well worth getting. Hopefully it's not the last car pack to be added to this game, but with the new Forza Motorsport game coming out in October, I imagine it will be. But regardless, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.